Welcome to TradeTheMBI.com. This is John. This report is for the third, and well, we did pretty much as expected. We were looking for weakness, but still holding support was the general construct of it. Started with a huge move up, went a little further, but then filled it all back in, but then still finished modestly to just shake things up a little bit. But still, we're fine condition now with the gap having been completely filled in that, but still sitting on a little bit of a weak run at this particular stage. The problem is that, well, it's not even a problem. It's just there aren't that many shorts activated in the situation, so it's not creating a huge move. The bigger concern right here is the move of the shakeout moving to negative. That puts support in danger. So a move down towards the lower end of the 76 definitely looks like it would break. So be aware of that one going into it. From an NQ standpoint, a little less weak, but similar construct. But the difference being here, the shakeout has not broken down into zero. So you've got much more strength from a NASDAQ, and that'll be the question whether the NASDAQ's able to keep the S&P from falling into worse condition. But if you see fading in the NASDAQ, you're definitely going to have the S&P break much further. So there'll be a disproportional move related to that. From a Treasury standpoint, the Fed has pretty much done what it's going to do for the time being. So it's kind of irrelevant at this particular stage. The problem really becomes the oil, adding extra sanctions and that doesn't exactly do what you need as far as creating a growth. So we're kind of stuck with this malaise situation. Things aren't horrible. They're not great. Interest rates, it's going to take 6 months or longer for that to really have any impact at all. You might see a bump in mortgages and things like that, but not if they still believe the Fed's going to cut again in December, in which case people, again, based on those kind of economic conditions, they wait. And that's your most frightful things is where psychology really comes into play. If people think that things are moving towards a recession, they hold off. And businesses cut employees, and you sort of self-fulfill the whole dynamic. And that's a ongoing issue within economics because it really is about mass sociology, and it has an impact. If you think things are optimistic in that, you tend to be more free flowing with things, and that has the same impact from a bright side. So the whole narrative situation makes a difference. Now we're getting into the ugly situation of the government shutdown still lingering. It's definitely going to be the longest one. The Democrats are not. At least in the Senate, seemingly wanting to give in. Interesting that a judge is ordering the government to spend money. I don't know if they can do that technically, even if they have a surplus, emergency fund or whatever. So that's going to get litigated, but it was interesting because the Trump administration was basically saying, okay, just tell us exactly how that's supposed to work, and we'll do it because they don't mind, making sure that people aren't starving to death, which would be a good thing not to have. And it's an indication though. But it's interesting too. At the same time, the Democrats sue because they ask how many people are on the SNAP programs and these various other ones that aren't legal, and should the government be paying for that? So that was always the big debate going through there. From a euro standpoint, well, it's starting to come back into reality as they recognize the eurozone. Definitely problematic, and this whole tariff, destruction of the U.S. economy didn't happen. In fact, we even saw Canada, the PM, apologizing for the fake Reagan ad. So, these kinds of things all work into, the recognition that, the U.S. is the big stick, and you really can't fight them, and it's kind of foolish to do so. And it was just a dumb idea from Canada's standpoint to even go down that road. But this should continue to decline from a euro standpoint, barring any unique thing from a U.S. perspective, at least as far as policy goes, or a situation where we finally get to where the government just can't spend anything. They don't have any new receipts coming in or whatever. We'll see. Those kinds of things can happen. It just doesn't seem likely, But it's going to become a problem politically very quickly here. Once people stop getting checks, Social Security, things like that, it matters. And from a gold standpoint, it filled in. It's got a base for a little bit at this particular elevated situation. And there's got to be then the measure of whether or not we're headed towards, deflationary pricing or inflation is going to pick up again. Um, the exuberance that inflation was going to run wild is sort of like ended, and with that, you get a reasonable pullback, but it's just to the 50% line. That would be very normal in every other case. From a BTC crypto space, there's still in a lot of general malaise weakness. At this particular point, what's the incentive? You had your hype moves and everything. Now you've just been basically trading sideways for a better portion of the year. We can go all the way back to before June, and you're right in that same area. So it's been exactly the opposite of the high beta that everyone really thinks of it as. You had your one little spurt move, but pretty much we've just been straight across since that back in July. Nothing's happened with it, and they're still looking at weakness with their NBI white lead. So, oops. We'll go to the 5 minute since that one had an issue with the 50K. When we look at it from the early morning, you can see huge negative. This, finalized all the option conditions, and then later in the day, you did the exact same thing. I wonder if I have another 50K chart. Let me look for it here real quick. No, it did the same thing. Sometimes happens with my tick charts. I don't know why, but it is a problem. They come and go. But anyway, new indicators are set to be out here, so you can look for those, and we'll be all set to start November. And I think it's just not going to be as erratic, but we still have the political issues, and so those are our unknowns. But we'll see how money reacts to it, so we'll be able to go with it from the readings. But for now, that's the long and the short of it. As always, trade well. Anything relevant, I'll put it on our team chat. Have a good one.